Hi, welcome to the Marketing Podcast. I'm Heather Watson.
And I'm Brendan Quigley.
How are you doing today, Brendan?
Excellent.
I'm excited. Go ahead, ask me how excited I am.
How excited are you?
I am super excited.
What are you excited for?
Well, it's the next best thing to Christmas Eve. It's iPhone Eve.
Oh.
Oh.
I was going to say Halloween.
No, a close, in a couple of days. But no, it's iPhone Eve. Tomorrow, the iPhone X 10, it's supposed to be called 10, is going to be available.
It's supposed to be called the iPhone 9. I was counting.
I was counting. I guess Apple thinks that Apple iPhone lovers can't figure out how to count. They did miss a number. They're just so innovative.
There you go.
Yeah.
What are you excited about?
I am excited to have the new shiny in hand. I mean, I haven't decided if I'm going to order it yet, but the AR is certainly something I'm really excited to play with more and more because, I mean, we've been talking about that with our clients from a marketing basis quite a bit. Yeah. So to be able to have it more readily available, I think that's going to be cool.
No, and that really does make the difference, right? Like new technology can help marketing, but if people can't use it, it's like I think a 360 video, it was out long before YouTube and Facebook allowed it to play on their platform, but now because it's in Facebook and YouTube, it's actually usable.
Exactly.
From a business point of view.
Yeah. So why aren't you excited about it?
No, Apple.
You're just not. You don't have the Apple love.
I don't have the iPhone love.
Okay.
I think it's when I was, buying my first smartphone, they were all so expensive. I'm more of like the cheap, good phone kind of person.
Okay.
For anyone who cares, I have a Nexus 5.
Right.
So that's all 0.1%
right.
of you.
But you were part of you watched the keynote or whatever it was, the Google thing recently.
Pixel 2.
The Pixel 2.
Which is an impressive phone. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I didn't pay too much attention to the Pixel 2, that announcement. Do you think that it compares to the iPhone 10?
So, funny enough, Google, during their presentation, basically said that hardware competing directly with hardware is really difficult. They all basically have the same specs. They have really good cameras.
Light, fast.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so Google's big push during their presentation was an AI first world. So we've heard this wording before, right? We've heard like the mobile first world. So Google's really pushed the AI first world, which is kind of interesting.
Right.
So they went through a whole bunch of products that all use machine learning in the background to improve the product.
Right.
Yeah.
So where Apple is focusing more on AR, augmented reality, in their software and the capabilities, we could argue that Google is really kind of putting AI as being investing in that as being the next emerging technology.
I wonder if that's how Apple sees it. Definitely the Pixel showed an augmented reality feature, but Apple did put a lot of weight into this new face 3D scan camera that is supposed to allow for this AR, and if you saw in the presentation, they had like the Snapchat filter fold around the person's face,
right?
So it looked like they were wearing a mask instead of just an image over your eyes, which was really neat, And that's that face recognition. They've got the double camera that actually does a 3D scan of the room,
right,
and the face and everything,
and I've certainly heard, and we'll see as this new technology becomes more readily available. I've heard lots of talk about the security. One of the things when Apple first announced or came out with the phone with the touch, right?
Yeah, right.
In the States, that is, if it's passcoded with a number versus with a fingerprint, one is you need a warrant to get, the other one you don't, and there will be question on this facial recognition to be able to unlock your phone as to whether or not it's going to require it. Now, I've heard in some kind of early reports that you can, tap the home button 5 times and it will eliminate the biometric kind of data, and it would require a passcode, which is which in the States is needed, the differentiator for a warrant.
Is that what he did on stage? He was demoing.
Oh, perhaps.
When the iPhone didn't unlock on stage, that must have been
that was a tough moment.
Yeah.
So today is, because I'm super excited about the iPhone 10. Today, I've really kind of turned this into the AR edition, augmented reality, and talk about some of the marketing applications that we're seeing, that that businesses, big companies are already using, and how we can perhaps delve into more of that from a small, medium-sized business. and what kinds of things to look out for from a marketing aspect. But first, it's interesting. We're talking about this excitement that I have for the iPhone, but there's this great article that came out in the Consumerist that people have finally figured out that they don't need to wait in line for an iPhone any longer. So I have been an early adopter on the iPhone. I went from a BlackBerry to an iPhone, and I was always like the latest, greatest BlackBerry, and I loved the technology from early on. And I remember 10 years ago that, having to line up. I didn't actually line up. It was like I kind of resigned to the fact that I wasn't going to get a brand new iPhone the day that it came out, nor did I need those bragging rights. But certainly, as time went on, I wanted to be more and more part of that cult, right? So earlier, they not long ago, they just released the iPhone 8. And lineups weren't that big, and they weren't all that impressed with the showing. And it's got some stats here. How many people were waiting outside stores, where, on release day in 2014, where's the number here? There were 1,900 people waiting outside of a store on release day in 2014, 650 on release day in 2015, 400 in 2014, and around 250 people this year for iPhone 8. Now, it may be just that there's not a lot of hype for iPhone 8, because if you're the latest, greatest, and you have the newest one, people are going to hold out and wait for iPhone 10 to come out tomorrow. But if you're going from a 4 or 5, an iPhone 8 is a solid piece of equipment, but still there's no lineup.
So this is interesting, because when I read this article, I initially thought, that it was the problem that Apple released the iPhone 8 and announced the iPhone X, 10, whatever we're going to call it.
10 is what we're calling it. 10's what Apple's calling it.
So they announced the 10 at the same time that they announced the 8, and so everyone, of course, wants the newest thing, and it was only going to come out a couple months later. So I thought that this was like a marketing problem specifically with this like double announcement. But looking at these numbers, like this is the Fifth Avenue. This is like the only store I would consider lining up outside of. And I'm not even an Apple I have an Apple computer. I'm not an Apple iPhone person. And it's decreased over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So like they've been seeing a drop in people lining up.
Steadily. And I think part of it is, 10 years ago, 5 years ago even, an Apple, an iPhone, or an iPad seemed to be more of a status item.
Right.
Yep. And now, and there was an availability with carriers. Only particular carriers would sell the certain model or the latest, greatest model. Yeah. So now they're much more widespread. I have an SE right now, which is older technology. Am I really that big on going out and getting the 6, the 7, the 8? No, but do I want the 10? Yes, because it's got this new thing, right? Yeah. Again, I'm not going to line up for it, because I know that in the past when they've come out with the announcements, and this could be another thing that's playing into it, there's been a lot of disappointment because people line up to it and then they can't fulfill, and then it's on back order. So I think as a business, Apple needs to come out with something better than just another version of their existing technology. When the iWatch came out, the Apple Watch, there would have been more, because it was like, finally, we have a watch that works with our phone. If they were to come out with a new whatever, eyewear or whatever, again, it's there. But a new version doesn't seem to get the same hype. Yeah.
And it shouldn't. Just a little change, a little tweak on that.
I think the iPhone 10's got a little bit more than just a little, but that's debatable. The question, are you lining up tomorrow for the iPhone 10 to be able to pre-order to get it? We haven't talked about the price. It's very expensive. And that might be a deterrent in and of itself as well.
After the Pixel announcement, I started looking at prices of just other phones as well. And Samsung's got $1,200 phones.
Yeah.
And that's US. That's not even we're always doing the conversion to Canadian, but that's some
big
of
money.
the top end phones. So at first, when I saw the $999 for the iPhone 10, I was like, that's really expensive. No one would buy that. But people have been buying phones at that price now for years.
For years, for sure. I think we need to wrap our heads around the fact that it's not a phone anymore.
Definitely.
Right. These things are powerful than many people's laptops and PCs in terms of their abilities and the technology that's on board. So, if you think about $1,200 for a laptop, that's reasonable.
Going rate almost right now.
Yep. So I think there's part of that, and I think people would be better served. The manufacturers would be better calling them more than just a a phone.
Yeah.
Like, the iPhone is going to have a hard time getting around that. But certainly, we're hearing mobile device,
It's true, yeah.
and handheld computing and those kinds of terms to get buyers, consumers' heads around paying more money for a piece of hardware, for a phone.
Yeah.
Because it's certainly, who even has a phone anymore? Occasionally.
Yeah.
Occasionally, right?
Phone calls? What are they?
What are they? So the next piece we have here is from Strategy. And I think this is talking about what I touched on earlier in terms of AR's role in the marketing mix and that it could grow. So there's some interesting numbers, and we'll share the link on our site in the show notes, themarketingpodcast.com. But basically, now with the iPhone 10 putting AR in people's hands, in the device, more easily, 27% of marketers say that they're considering bringing it into the fold, up from 18% in 2015. So the appetite for AR is even greater on the agency side. And like I said earlier, we've been talking about this as an agency with our clients, but 53% now of agencies are saying that they're considering using it, which is up from 30% in 2015. But then again, there's also 64% of marketers who say they have no intention of using AR, with 34% of agencies saying the same. So I'd like to say that the barrier is cost and accessibility. But now accessibility is more widespread because it's going to be in, I don't know how many iPhone 10s are going to be sold, but it's going to be more widespread in terms of users. So is it that businesses aren't sure how to use this technology and deploy it creatively for their brands and campaigns? Or is it an issue of they don't know how to, not necessarily from a creative perspective, but just purely from a technical perspective, how do we create an AR campaign? Right.
Yeah. How to take advantage of the technology versus actually building out something. Yeah, no, I understand. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what some of the big brands are doing when it comes to this space. But one of the things I can kind of, I don't know if it's a prediction, and it goes a little bit of a different direction, but Google's implementation of this AR will be very telling. So Google search has governed so much of the way we do online. Everyone wants to optimize their website so that it works really well in Google search. And one of Google's implementations of AR is Google Lens. Like, it's literally just take a picture of something and then have the Google Assistant go out and collect all the information on that. So I think there's like two main places for businesses to look at when they're looking at AR. One of them is implementing some type of AR tech in their business, whether it's, visualizing something in your room or whether it's looking at products in a 3D way. But I think the other side of it is going to be making your data available to, I'm going to come back to AI, but making your data available in a searchable way for other programs that are going to use AR.
Right.
If that makes sense. So when someone points their phone at your business, it pulls in your information.
Right.
And that's another side of augmented reality. If someone's in your store, are they getting pushed information from your store?
Right.
That
so
kind of thing.
I'm going to ask you this because you're much more nerdy than me when it comes to the technology, kind of the behind the scenes on stuff. But if I'm a small or medium-sized business and I want to do either one of those two things, what's the first step I have to take? I think about the
Technically?
I think about the first time we started doing 360 video with
right.
clients, and it's like, oh, it's easy. You can upload it into Facebook. You just click this box and tag this and do this, and boom, now it's going to play something in 360.
Yeah, right.
Right? But how do I, if I'm a furniture store and I want to mimic what IKEA is doing, and we talked about this in a previous episode where you can look at a catalog item and look at it in the room. If I want to take that technology, who do I hire? I don't mean like a marketing agency, but is it a programmer that I'm hiring? Is it a videographer? Is it a photographer? Is it a...
that particular example, there's going to be a few moving pieces for sure. You probably want to hire the consultant who can pull all that together.
Yeah.
In terms of putting together something that's augmented reality, you might want to rely on platforms that are out there.
Right. Okay.
And there are a handful of platforms that can do this kind of stuff, sort of low barrier to entry.
Because I don't think at this point in time there's like a real DIY,
No.
get your staff involved to try and create that, right? So I see that being the barrier to entry still, and why this article in Strategy is saying that agencies and marketers are still not sold on it because they just don't know how it works.
I think with the next generation here of smartphones, like we're talking, when the AR is being built into them, it's that low bar, as in all of a sudden in everybody's pocket is a device that can handle this. And it's not download our app to handle this. It's going to be baked in and work out of the box. And so I think we'll see, like, it'd be interesting to see these numbers in a year.
Right.
When marketers see those big brands doing things that work, and then they move along. I think of Snapchat and Instagram with filters. Like, they're working really, really well.
Sure.
So basically, we've seen it work in the entertainment. Now we're going to see it work in business.
Sure. And that's a great segue into our next piece. So we're talking a little bit here. Mobile Marketer is talking about Toys R Us, the toy store that everybody loves to hate or loves. They have debuted an AR app to enhance in-store experience. So they, I want to make sure I get this right. So it's within 23 locations with a nationwide rollout, actually, that just happened just this past week across the nation, where you can be able to use this. So the app itself allows people to open up the Play Chaser app. I want to make sure I get this right. It's using Apple's AR Kit, which is one of those platforms that you were just referencing. So kids can do things like adopt a virtual version of a baby doll that's for sale on the shelves, or visit a basketball station to shoot hoops via the swipe of a screen, compare scores with other players on a leaderboard, that kind of stuff. So it gets people in the store and those activities. They can unlock more experiences in the store. So this isn't like you've talked about just earlier, pointing your phone at something and being able to get all the details on something. But what they're doing is taking users who are in the store and making these playrooms available where kids can try out games and gadgets, but then also engage with a piece of hardware, their mobile phone, and play games.
It's kind of smart for a toy store.
It is.
Come play with the toys without actually playing with the toys.
It is.
That's not a bad.
It's legit. Totally. I mean, I'm beyond the age of or having kids at that age where we would go and hang out in Toys R Us.
Yeah.
I think about my nieces and nephew who are 6 and 4 in that age group, and they're always wanting to just play with my phone, to look at my pictures or play whatever games that are on it. I don't feel all that confident handing my phone over to my 4-year-old niece to say, "Here, play this swipe basketball game," because it'll get whipped across the room or something, right?
What's scary is she'd probably figure out how to play the swipe basketball game.
It is.
Yeah.
She's also figured out how to lock my phone when the passcode doesn't work for her, which is a little frustrating at times. But it's interesting, right? Because Toys R Us has been having challenges just as a corporate, as an entity. They filed for bankruptcy protection, with Walmart and Amazon, where people are shipping and having those big e-commerce things going on. Whereas the app is kind of the opposite. It's forget the e-commerce guys. You can buy this thingy online anywhere, but come in store and play with it virtually using the augmented reality. So, it allows people to interact in a different way, which is neat. I'd like to see how that's going to work out.
And then what about VR? Can I wear this on my head and walk around their store?
Oh, that would be wouldn't it be great to walk down, almost creepy, but in a nice way, walk down an aisle of dolls with a VR kit on and have Barbie say, "Hey, come play with me. Look at my cool thing." And Ken's "Hey, check out over," whatever, right? To have the dolls saying, "Tickle me and I cry," or whatever, right? I think that would be just creepy.
And the parents can put theirs on and it just plays quiet music and soothing.
Smiling children everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. The other thing is, like I say, people may not want to hand their phones over to their kids. Maybe Toys R Us has a bank of phones that they put in kids' hands.
Yeah, right.
That are locked for everything else but the app, right?
They might just be banking on kids having their own phones too.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's the way it's.
Who shot? But like, what age of kids does Toys R Us max out at? 10?
Lego doesn't ever max out, so.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're over 10, you're not hanging out in Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Right?
We'll see.
So, interesting. The other piece here that was similar, and I've mentioned this, like I say, in a previous podcast, as well as earlier, is the IKEA's AR app.
I think this one makes so much sense, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, this was part of the iOS update. They've kind of redone this app. So Strategy is talking about this this new app that they've launched. They did release an AR app in 2014. It required scanning the retailer's physical catalog to make it work. So you had to scan the IKEA catalog and then be able to look into a room. You could be your living room or whatever to gauge the size of a space. And then pick from the catalog of 2,000 pieces of furniture and storage solutions to see exactly how that piece is going to look in your room. So the new update, and it's interesting because there's even a note on Google's platform for AR Core that they hope to launch it on once the...
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So you won't get left out either. So... the new one doesn't require...
Yeah, right. You can just drop anything into your room.
Yeah. So it just takes that step out. Because I think the first one I remember hearing feedback where it was like a little finicky. Like if you weren't totally steady with scanning the room, it would not necessarily gauge it quite right. And when you're buying a piece of furniture, you need that to be exact for fit and what have you, right? So it's just got a little bit better.
Yeah, I can see this one because you can take a picture with someone in the picture as well, right? To see how it's going to look.
Right.
So you could have like the fanciest dinner table and someone waving hello, and then that's not actually your dinner table. It's just a... Yeah,
it's just an AR photo. And IKEA, certainly furniture retailers, it makes perfect sense. This is a great application for augmented reality. But a number of other non-branded apps are looking at using the same technology. So Overstock.com launched a similar planning tool made with ARKit. Wayfair has launched its own app with other brands following. So I think we'll see a lot of spatial use stuff for AR, and that's very practical.
Like, I wonder if like a real estate agent could take pictures of a house that was empty but stage it with IKEA furniture.
Wow.
Like the whole thing.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why?
So you don't have to move the furniture in. You've got an empty house, you're a real estate agent trying to sell it, you put some fancy, you just stage it, take a picture of the room, everything's there.
Wow. I just can imagine making that kind of investment without actually walking through the house.
Right, you walk through the house, but it's just for like the advertisement of the house,
right?
That you put on the MLS and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder, that's coming, and like with the sense that we like, you'll be able to, car in the driveway, dog outside, take a picture.
Yeah, it'd be really cool to see. It's like, oh, will my dog fit in that backyard?
Yeah.
Or, does this make sense? Will the kid's bed fit in there?
Yeah. Like
that I could see for sure.
No, it's interesting.
Yeah. So another really cool use that's popped up, and this is from Mobile Marketer, Modiface adds a 3D hair color simulation to the AR app. So as I'm not a huge connoisseur of beauty makeup sites, but I've seen this before where you can, and we see it with eyeglasses as well, like using AR to try on eyeglasses or test out a hair color or makeup. So this is a hair coloration app, and it detects your existing hair and does a video frame and colors your hair in a realistic way. So if I want to see how my hair would look in green or blue or orange or purple, I can do that, and it's kind of over. So very much like what I would see with a Snapchat filter, but less cartoonish. Although I wish I could get the Snapchat filter makeup, the eye makeup, because my eyes always look so fantastic when I use those Snapchat filters. So like I say, the beauty industry has been, as an industry, an early adopter in AR technology. because it's able to overlay those makeup applications, those colors, and we'll see it probably also in clothing, right? In wardrobe, you can see how that would easily translate.
So I guess the question here, like, there's lots of different examples of this working. Is it worth being first?
Sure.
Let's say you've got a business that, let's say you have a furniture business, just like IKEA. Is it worth trying to figure that out?
Yeah, I mean, right now we don't know what that investment of cost is, right? Like how do businesses budget for that, a small or medium-sized business? And to create that experience might be a barrier in and of itself. So to say, is it worth it?
Right.
That's a tough question to ask, or to answer rather. To say to be the first one out, I mean, I think we're seeing it where these large corporations have the dollars and cents to put at it and play with it. And it's offering those new and kind of innovative solutions to help people convert into customers. So I think that makes sense. I mean, and we talked about in a previous episode how big malls are doing well in certain industries, and clothing seems to be one of those, because people want to go in and touch and try things on and see how they look on them. If you're a clothing manufacturer, whether it's like regardless of the price point, male or female or any of that, if I can stand in front of a mirror and pretend or take a photo of me and try on an outfit without actually having to leave my home and then just buy that look online, there's value in that.
Yep.
So being the first one out of the gate, sure. Because that's what the benchmark is going to be, whether you nail it or not, right?
Yeah.
Like people will say, oh, it's kind of like I think one of the first ones I had ever heard about doing AR was IKEA in 2014.
Yeah. Yep.
And people kind of say, oh, like IKEA, right?
Yep.
And just having that recognition, right? Canadian Tire did it, we mentioned before as well. But people don't remember Canadian Tire for doing it. People remember IKEA for doing it.
Yeah.
So that's AR. That's AR. I'm really excited to see how things roll out in the next 6 months. Like, I know people have been expecting this. They've been building towards it. We saw it more widely accepted when Pokemon hit the stage. People started understanding what AR was about. Better cameras.
I'm excited for the location-aware side of it. For my phone to be doing things because I'm in a certain space. And then that option to point the phone and get more information about this thing or that thing. You're trying to decide, do you want to eat at this restaurant? Oh, there's their menu. Oh, no, what about that one? You point your phone over there. There's their menu. Mm-hmm. That kind of like relevant information at your fingertips.
Right. And you had mentioned in a previous episode about doing the house listings, right?
Yeah.
If you see houses for sale,
yeah,
or a vehicle for sale in a car lot, be able to point it at that vehicle.
I've always pictured this app that you're driving through the neighborhood and there's giant arrows floating above the houses that are for sale.
Yeah,
you just point your phone around. You're like, oh, there's one there, and there's one here, and there's one.
Yeah, yeah.
That idea.
The applications are endless. One of the ones that it's mentioning in this mobile marketer piece is to virtually try on new tattoos.
Of course.
Yeah. Right? I mean, oftentimes if you go into a tattoo shop, they're going to draw it out in like a transfer paper and then lay it over top of your skin so you can see how that placement looks and how it moves with your skin. But why not just skip that step altogether and do it virtually through?
I think another interesting thing would be like more information about something. Mm-hmm. So you've got a limited real estate for information. Maybe it's an ad, or maybe it's but being able to point your phone at it to see more information come up on that thing, but directed, maybe your store sign has more information that you can relay, the hours if they point, that kind of stuff, So I get excited about those things. Yeah,
and I mean, I think those things are the pieces that small businesses can do now.
Yeah.
That don't involve bringing in a professional, photography, videography, like the crews to do it, and have somebody like design something custom. Those platform pieces that you're going to see come out will allow businesses to do that kind of at a street level, at a retail level, and being able to do that is cool, right? Like whether you're the first one in your town doing it or the first one ever doing it, I mean, it gets a little bit of buzz around it. I was just joking with somebody earlier today. I kid you not. I remember there was a time that people would do a media release a whole full-on press conference because they launched a new website,
Yeah,
right? Which is absolutely laughable today. Yeah. But this is the kind of technology that, like, beyond deploying the technology, and that's really cool, but just being the first one to market to say, hey, this restaurant or this small business downtown is using this new technology, check it out, will get people wanting to try it.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's like, oh, let's go and see and point my phone at it and see if it works.
Exactly, yeah. No, that's awesome.
Fantastic. Is that it? I feel like we've blasted through today's show in record time.
Augmented reality.
Augmented reality. That's it. We're bending reality. So really the show is much longer than it was. It's just,
yeah,
it's just fast. So that's everything. Everybody, thanks so much for listening. Really appreciate it. You can always tune in for updates and news and to comment on any of these stories at themarketingpodcast.com. You'll see links to our social profiles on Twitter and Facebook, and join in the conversation and let us know your thoughts, your ideas for using augmented reality and anything else that comes into your reality. So for the Marketing Podcast, I'm Heather.
And I'm Brendan.
Thanks for tuning in.